What's up, guys? So people are always asking me how they can achieve a cleaner, neater look when they're decorating cakes. So whether it's, sculpting figures, paneling cakes, cutting out polka dots, making bows, my answer is usually to skip the fondant and use modeling chocolate, which is a really simple product to make. It tastes delicious. It's chocolate, and it's really simple to use. And modeling chocolate can be easily made with just two ingredients. That's just corn syrup and coating chocolate or compound chocolate, these little colored chocolate coins that you can find at pretty much any craft store in any cake decorating aisle. Really simple, and it's really cheap to make. The proportion or the recipe that I really like to use is a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 parts chocolate to 1 part corn syrup. So these bags usually come in 12-ounce portions, so it's 12 ounces of chocolate. 12 divided by 4 is 3, and then it's 3 ounces of corn syrup. So by weight, 12 ounces of chocolate, and then weigh out with your kitchen scale 3 ounces of corn syrup. And I have a really awesome trick that makes this process so easy and guarantees you're gonna have smooth, lump-free, chunk-free modeling chocolate that is just going to make all of your sugar art activities so much easier, so much neater and cleaner. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is portion your chocolate into a microwave-safe bowl and melt it. Just until it's melted, you'll want to stir the chocolate every 30 to 45 seconds with a rubber spatula. Give it a good stir for a good 10 seconds because chocolate keeps melting as you're stirring it. So for one of these 12-ounce bags, it usually takes anywhere from about 2.5 to 3 minutes for me to melt the chocolate. And then I just set the chocolate aside, and then I pop my corn syrup that's also in a microwave safe bowl in the microwave for about 20 to 30 seconds just to warm it up slightly. And then I also have a sheet pan that's lined with plastic wrap. Once I mix the modeling chocolate, I'm going to lay it out on the sheet pan, flatten it out so it cools really quickly, and then I'll come back to the chocolate and knead it after a short amount of time. So I have my chocolate melted and I have my corn syrup, and in my bowl here I actually have blue chocolate that I melted. That's another great thing about modeling chocolate and using these pre-colored chocolates is that it takes all of the guesswork out of coloring your chocolate. So pretty much the color you start with with your melted chocolate is the color that you will end up with. So buy a color that you need, and then you'll have it. You'll have red modeling chocolate, you'll have black modeling chocolate. These proportions, this 4-to-1 chocolate to corn syrup ratio, I use it for white chocolate melts, for milk or dark chocolate melts, any of the colors in between. 4-to-1 is gonna work. So let's mix this up. So once your chocolate is melted nice and smooth, all you have to do is pour your warmed corn syrup into your chocolate. And I like to use my spatula just to make sure I get all of that corn syrup out of there. And then basically you're just going to stir it up. And I always like to make sure that I'm getting the chocolate that's on the side of the bowl, the chocolate that's stuck to the spatula, incorporated in the mixture, because you don't want any stray bits of melted chocolate that don't get combined with the corn syrup. And you'll see as I'm stirring it here that the chocolate starts to thicken up. So what the corn syrup is doing, it's actually seizing the chocolate and thickening it up, but since corn syrup is a special kind of sugar, it still allows the chocolate or the modeling chocolate to be smooth and not be completely grainy. So once you get to the point where the chocolate starts to thicken up and look like dough, just like this, give it a couple more turns and then you're just gonna wanna stop. You don't wanna overmix this. So then you'll just grab your sheet tray or plate or cake pan, whatever you want to use, that's lined with plastic wrap, and just dump that chocolate in there. Flatten it out just a little bit just so it cools quicker. And then I use the extra plastic wrap just to cover it up. And then most people would say at this point to let the chocolate sit overnight or to let it sit until it's completely firm. My trick, what I like to do, is to let the chocolate sit just until the edges feel firm and the inside will still feel a little bit soft. I find that I get a much smoother modeling chocolate when I knead it before I think it's ready. So I'm gonna let this sit for maybe half an hour and then I'll check it and check its consistency. And I know that I'm ready to knead it because the edges are quite firm and the inside is still just a little bit soft. So this is a great chance to use a marble pastry board if you have one, or a metal table. This marble pastry board or the metal table, since they stay cooler than, say, a wooden table would, the coolness of this surface makes it a little bit easier to knead the modeling chocolate. So with clean hands or gloved hands, you just want to knead the chocolate just like fondant or bread dough, And if it starts to stick to the surface you're kneading it on, you can just take the larger hunk of the chocolate and just kind of wipe it all back together. And like I said, this is much softer than I think most people have their modeling chocolate when they're kneading it. But I find that when I knead the chocolate in its soft state like this, that I end up with a smoother product because the fat that is in the chocolate hasn't completely solidified. So by kneading this all together when it's all still kind of soft, I'm avoiding any of those lumps of kind of like waxy bits that you get in modeling chocolate that are actually the fat that is in the chocolate. So at this point, the modeling chocolate is nice and smooth. It's really pliable. And to test to see if I think modeling chocolate is done, I like to just form it into a loosely shaped cone and see if it can kind of stand up and support itself. And I'll bend the top just over just a little bit, and you can see here that pretty much that's going to stay in place, which is really cool. That's what's so great about modeling chocolate, is that at room temperature it supports itself, whereas fondant or gum paste would definitely just drip over or droop over and you wouldn't be able to do this. So at this point, I would let this sit for maybe another 10 minutes before I used it for a project, or I would wrap it really tightly in plastic wrap and then put that inside of a like gallon-sized sandwich baggie, and then I would just let it sit until I needed it for a cake decorating project. Make sure to check out my blog, bakingwithdan.com, because I'll have all of the brands that I use, the chocolate and the corn syrup, as well as step-by-step written instructions on how I make my easy, foolproof modeling chocolate. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I hope it helps you kick up your cake decorating game. Until next time, guys, happy baking and stay sweet.